Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Vipasha Rathore. I'm from Extramarks, your host for this session. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to our webinar series, Extramarks Elevate, a platform that will help us learn from each other's experiences and implement the best identified solutions or trends that work for our students, teachers, and parents. Being a leading EdTech brand, we at Extramarks are very proud of our journey of the last 15 years and thankful to our 15,000 plus global schools, without whom this journey would not have been as fulfilling. What started as a vision to provide our schools with digital solutions for K-12 has evolved with time. Today, we are empowering schools with a connected learning ecosystem, one that caters to the needs, desires, and asks of the key stakeholders, the teachers, the students, the parents, and most importantly, the school management. All of this is being delivered via our Smart Class Plus. From NEP-aligned content to smart assessment tools for teachers, self-learning modules for students, which come bundled with game-based practice and a wide array of self-test options, insights for parents into their child's learning journey, and smart reports and analysis for the school management to assess a student's growth through the academic year. We have been focusing ourselves to offer all of these in one solution to our schools, only to help them achieve the goal of academic excellence they have set for their students. Not only this, over the last 5 years, we've also taken note of the most important trend of the need for preparing our students for competitive exams. More importantly, we've also understood the importance of this being delivered via the comfort of their schools. And thus it was only natural for us to start empowering our schools with test prep solutions that help their children ace exams like JEE and NEET, all being delivered from the comfort of their schools. So if you look closely, our journey has been one where we have identified a new trend or enabled an emerging one or enhanced an existing. And thus it was only natural for us to begin our very first session of Extramarks Elevate webinar series with the topic, Top Trends in Education Technology. And to share their views with us today, we have Mr. Devidatta Kanungo, CEO of Radcliffe Group of Schools. With over 2 decades of experience as an educationist, he has been spearheading many innovative projects that are student-centric models of teaching and learning. An engineer by training and an alumni of the prestigious Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, he's a lifelong learner himself who is passionate about impacting children's lives through education. Joining him is Mr. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐿 Iyengar, a teacher by choice and cluster principal of the Vishwajyot Group of Schools. His passion for learning was the catalyst for him to choose education as a career. A firm believer of explorative learning, he urges his students to have a keen eye to discovery. And over the last 2 decades, he has been instrumental in introducing Vedic Maths in everyday teaching. He has also been associated with educational bigwigs like the VIBGYOR Group of Schools and the Jain Group. Last but not the least, we have with us Director, Extramarks Education, Ms. Poonam Singh Jambal, who has always believed in inclusive, intuitive, and holistic tech-enabled learning solutions, tickling the young learner's curiosity with an immersive approach, measured outcomes, and supporting continued learning from school to home in dynamic scenarios has been her passion. She has also served the Times of India, leading newspaper in education, and it was under her leadership that TOI witnessed a shift in the reader base as she paved the way for a youth niche audience. We've been very happy to have her with us at Extramarks since 2007. We regret that Father Francis Swami could not join us today due to unavoidable circumstances, but we have an August gathering with us. So without any further delay, let's start our conversation with my first question to Devi Datta sir. So the last couple of years have seen so many trends emerge in the education industry. Out of all of the trends that you have seen yourself, what are the top 3 trends according to you that are here to stay for the next decade?
First of all, thank you, Vipasha, for inviting me to this gathering. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to Poonam, and obviously this opportunity to talk to so many educators from across the country. It's a great, it's really gives me pleasure to talk to so many educators out there in the country. As you rightly said, this last 5 years probably has been the era of edutech, especially the 2 years of COVID. Really, I think changed the educational mindset altogether. At one point of time when edutech was just seen as a luxury or something which is optional in nature, now it has come into the mainstream and definitely is here to stay. There are few things that I am seeing as major trends, and I feel that as the year passes in the next 5 to 6 years, definitely they are going to be, the changing face of edutech, so to say. One is the personalization of education through edutech. See, we have for so many years, I think everybody in education sector has been talking about students taking their own personal learning journey and so on and so forth. But we were still stuck with the structural framework of the class, which is one teacher and 35 to 40 students, and whatever that you say, but the reality of the classroom is that the teacher is hamstrung. She has only so much time to give, and it really requires an immense amount of training and immense amount of hard work before the classroom for the teacher to even get a semblance of personalized education into the classroom. But now with edutech coming in, I think that is a trend that's going to stay, which is edutech helping the teachers personalize the learning journey for the children, really being that assistant in the class who will allow the teacher to kind of create those learning journeys. Obviously, that too will require a lot of training for the teachers and a different mindset shift. But at least now we know it's possible, right? If you have the right set of platforms and the right set of infrastructure in place, at least it is possible to do a very personalized learning journey for the children. And that is one trend I think which will see prominence in the next 5 years, including the fact that I think we'll probably see a lot of entry of personal devices into the classrooms, which at one point of time was such a taboo, right? I remember pre-COVID times where in a big international school, I had such a backlash from the parents because we made compulsory personal devices from grade 6 up, and the parents were so unhappy. I mean, obviously a set of parents were unhappy, but now after COVID, that personal device thing has become it's become common, and the parents have accepted. And I think that is going to see a lot of the progressive schools will start pushing personal devices. That definitely one trend. The other thing which I think almost every education group you get into is talking about is AI, right? AI. Definitely it's going to shift the way that our education is happening. Or if it doesn't shift the way that education system is happening, then we educators need to really do an introspection, because it is definitely going to change the world. Right? the way that we have shifted from just book-based learning to learning from everywhere, doing research-based learning from internet, and so on and so forth. Now, in most of the schools, at least to a certain extent, internet and Google have become part of a common parlance of teaching. Wikipedia has become part of the common parlance of teaching. Similar way, I think as we go forward in the next 4-5 years, AI is definitely going to take over. And we as educators, the most important thing is not to be scared of it, but understand how do we embrace it and use it to really elevate the quality of teaching. And
Right.
the third most important trend that I see is the integration of edutech into not just the classroom, but into every aspect of the school, right? Um, Earlier, we had edutech solutions which were very specific and niche in nature. There'll be like one maths ka bhi khali mental maths, and there'll be a edutech solution just catering to that. Or there will be, robotics and only robotics. I think now we are in a world where we will see edutech players integrating multiple things and coming to school as a whole soul solution, as a buffet of offerings, and then the schools deciding what they want or how much they can consume from that buffet.
Right. So very rightly said, sir. Very, very important trends which are coming in. And I think one of the biggest takeaway for me is the fact that you said that we do not have to be scared of these emerging trends or the use of technology and the inclusive use of technology in every aspect of school. That brings me to my second question. And Poonam ma'am, my question is to you. You have been in the edtech industry since 2007, which can be seen as basically the start of the boom of the industry that's started happening. You've obviously witnessed all of the trends, and being in the edtech organization, you've also been instrumental in enabling many of these trends. What have been your experiences in terms of the challenges that we have seen, and what are the challenges you foresee now, and how do we prepare our schools as an edtech organization in helping them overcome those challenges?
The most important point that I like to say when we begin this edtech journey was that through which prism do you look at edtech? That is a question. Okay. In the early years, when I used to meet co-ed innovators, they would look at it from the point of view of delighting, not teaching. But they wanted to bring the kind of excitement into the classroom. So it was almost like translating the first step towards edtech, that is our AV room, and bring it to every classroom. Okay. But the approach to edtech was not pedagogy based. It was that the teacher is in the class, she drives the teaching and curriculum, and they support it with some teaching aids. And for the longest time, that is how edtech was looked at, or it was to provide the curriculum material in a digital format. So
right.
nobody was really looking at it as a tool to actually take the best practices of teaching across to people and give equal opportunity to everybody to have access to best education. What I'm very proud of when we begin from the point of view of actually empowering the classroom, not the teacher, not the student, but the education system itself. So we thought that the first thing is not to pick up CBSE, ICSE, state board curriculums, but to create a backbone of how a concept is deeply understood. And why the Indian curriculum is so different from an international curriculum was basically on the point of the percentage given to theoretical understanding and application. It is all in international curriculum, they'll have application as priority and then go to the concept. In Indian curriculum, we put 80% of all our stress into conceptual understanding, and then some 20%, in certain cases 30% on application. We thought that we keep to the curriculum that is prescribed, but somewhere bring the best practices of the world, because we visualize a convergence in future of world curriculums and best practices. And how do I take that perfect best practice and take it to the nook and corner of the country and the world, and take away the geographical boundaries of a right to quality education. And what I'm proud of was that we had that blueprint and vision. We want to give 360-degree education from school to classroom, from within the classroom also, through interventions, give every child opportunity to excel, which humanly is not possible, the way Devi was saying, in a classroom by a teacher in 40 minutes with 40 children. She requires tools to do that. But today, when we are standing, the trends that you're looking like trends, I feel were the vision of all the educators. Every conference we went into, these were conversations. How do I reach the last child? How do I empower the teacher? How do I take away the fear of technology in adults? That we have a textbook bred generation trying to bridge that gap. And that struggle was more with adults than children. And I really feel that EdTech innovators were pretty committed to bring in best technology, best knowledge. But when you were going to the classroom, the adults were the gatekeepers. Right. But the conversations were happening, and conversations were happening with education leaders like we are having conversation today. Right. So to me, 3 big trends have happened currently. Okay. Everybody understands assessments are good. Everybody understands curriculum support is good. Everybody now accepts there has to be a pedagogical backbone to any educational material we bring into the classroom. Everybody understands it. But bringing it together holistically and like one piece moving in tandem is the only thing that will bring the perfection that we are looking for. Right. And then what you talked about, Extramarks Plus, finally is coming together of everything. And in this jigsaw puzzle, you take one piece, it may operate functionally, but it will only have the output that you're looking for when it works totally in a 360-degree solution. There has to be learning, there has to be assessment, there has to be intervention, and there has to be calculable intervention. So the good trend that I found is all school leaders, all teachers are open today. They understand the power of it. And then whatever the tragedy COVID brought, it also brought overnight education and acceptance of technology as a way forward to provide continuity to learning. Today, the trend is that adults are not fearful. They are truly teaching beyond the fear of technology. So they are actually utilizing the tools that are on their table. So this is one great trend that has happened. Second thing is there are no haves and have-nots anymore. The child in the village, in the government school, in the best school, they all have understood that this is not something esoteric. They have a right and they have an access to best education. And it is just a click away. So now we cannot have a conversation, it is a target school, or you're rich enough or you're poor enough. Very good trend. Third element is that all school leaders are now looking at smart classes as infrastructural requirement. But they are looking at solutions, software solutions for assessments and interventions and self-learning as the way, as a part of the curriculum plan beginning of the year. And they're actually, rather than taking it as an external element, they're embedding it into the teaching system. And
Right.
teachers are picking it up seamlessly.
Yeah.
Yes, certain trainings have to happen.
Yeah.
Because now they were self-taught in the 2 years of COVID. Now certain trainings have to happen of how effectively these tools can be used in the classroom.
Right.
Fourth trend I would like to say is a very interesting one. All these 60 years of Indian education, teachers were trained into how to control a class, what is a decorum, what is the teaching practice, everything. But nobody taught a teacher when she went overnight online how to manage that class.
Right.
What is the decorum? What is the online etiquette? And perhaps in a soft skill training for the students and teachers, this is something school leaders have to look at.
Yeah.
Because they will have to provide agility between offline and online.
Yeah.
And if those things are taught at skills, you will be able to have no break in the school curriculum, whatever.
Sure.
So net, we are in a very sweet place of 60 years of wanting to teach the country and the last 15, 20 years of EdTech incorporation into curriculum. So these conversations that we are having today are critical.
Yeah.
Because we got to listen and we need to find a best way to embed. Right?
Right. So this shift that we just spoke about, from thinking of EdTech only as a means of delight in classroom to actually integrating it in pedagogy now in the way it is being implemented, obviously requires a certain amount of skill sets or upskilling that every teacher might have to go through.
I have to give one small input.
Yes.
Okay? How do you book your tickets today?
Online. That's
what technology in education needs to be. It's not something to be told. I need to reach somewhere. There is no other way for me. This is the only way. Until that happens, we will leave it as an external bit and never be able to leverage its value into the classroom.
Yeah, so picking on that, Kishore sir, you have been, passionate about innovative teaching, learning practices and implementing in all the schools and with the teachers you've always been working with. But with this rise of remote and hybrid learning models, there are challenges, there are opportunities that I'm sure you're foreseeing. What are the kind of effective tools that you foresee coming into play and are a must-have, like Poonam ma'am just said, there are no haves and have-nots now. These are a must-have. And how do you actually see that changing in a live physical class environment?
Yeah. Good morning. Yes, so if we look at the trend, like how ma'am was telling, we definitely have shifted from somewhat unorganized education system to a structured system where we are able to deliver things across the country in one way. And moving it towards personalization is something that everyone is working towards. Yes. So with this hybrid and online module coming in, the personalization that we are dreaming of, I think we are already in it now. Yes, this is happening. But then where I see is a little things not working is where children generally have conversations and they learn better when they interact with each other and together.
Right.
That misses out when you do it online, where they do not get a platform to share and learn from each other. But then when it comes into the class, if we are able to implement this kind of a technology, have personalization, and also get them to interact, that would be a great thing to in a physical setting. The next thing is creating an immersive environment, right? So we are all talking about classrooms having charts. We're talking about classrooms having things for children to do, but creating an immersive environment with technology as well within the class.
Right.
If you remember when online classes started, teachers started using some poll system from some website.
Yeah.
Then they started using Kahoot for quiz.
Right.
Then they started using some other website for spin the wheel. So all these things, for all these things, they had to go to different websites, different places and search for it.
Right.
Today, if there is a platform given to them where everything is accessible easily in one place,
Yeah.
that makes it immersive, right? And also, it does not just, we don't just leave it there. We also use the data from that and analyze the learning.
I was going to come that, yeah.
That becomes more important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we played a game. We did some spin the wheel. We had some good engaging activity
Right.
to ensure that learning is better. But then to understand how much learning has happened, able to
Right.
read that data, analyze the data is something that is a tool that we should give teachers, is a skill
Yeah.
that we should give teachers.
So, in fact, if I can let everyone in on, a small conversation that Kishore sir and I were having the other day, and that's how we started talking, wherein data management and analytics has obviously, been one of the very empowering insight that all of us have realized post the last 2 years of COVID. And managing data has become so convenient and important with the way technology has advanced and integrated itself in the education system. Teachers now have complete analytics of student performances, right from a half-yearly test or a weekly test to a chapter, topic, subtopic layer. And that is where, initially, for everyone who's here, Kishore sir and I had started talking, and this was one thing that I understood was of a key importance to him. But sir, this also brings me to a question to Devi sir again, so for you, it is a group of schools which is obviously having students from all walks of life coming in, and like you mentioned, there are a set of parents who may or may not still be okay with integrating technology to this extent, but we are implementing various solutions, and we are working in the school, having solutions which allow these smart assessments, personalized journeys, and also getting the data that management and teachers need to understand the students' growth. But how do you actually see that coming into play on a day-to-day basis? And how do you see the integration of it happening with your teachers and the scale that we are looking at with Radcliffe as a group?
See, as Poonam was saying, the good part is that today there is no teacher who is scared of technology or edutech anymore, right? Most of them, you give them a platform and they are not scared, at least, of opening and starting to use it. Same with parents, right? At one point of time where parents were like, if you are using edutech, there was a perception that पढ़ाई अच्छी नहीं कर रहे हैं, कुछ वीडियो लगा देते हैं, right? That perception has also gone. So to a certain extent, now we are thankfully living in a world where that technology, the distance from the technology has gone off. But what needs to happen is that natural adoption of technology into the day-to-day teaching, into a thing where it's very integrally woven into the day-to-day teaching, that still needs time. See, it's still teachers still see that कि मुझे ऐसे पढ़ाना है, उसमें मैं ये वीडियो दिखा दूंगा, right? So while on the other hand, you don't start thinking about the end result and start thinking that is it better to teach it physically? Is it better to teach it through technology? Is it better to teach it by just taking the students out into the open? How do I best teach it? That questions still are not getting asked properly, right? So there is where there is work that needs to happen, that where you need to start putting the horse before the cart and saying that, okay, this is my learning outcome. If this is my learning outcome, what is the shortest pathway to it? What is the best pathway to it? Is it physical teaching? Is it chalk and talk? Because see, many times in all our conversations, chalk and talk method is it's sometimes seen ki, "Arey, yo to acha nahi hai." Many times it's the best way.
Yeah.
Right.
Many times it's the best way. Direct instruction has its place in the way that and for years it was the mainstay of school education. You cannot say ki wo acha nahi hai. It is good. It has its place. Technology has its place. Experiential learning has its place.
Right.
But the question has to
Maybe
be asked.
I have a question. I don't know why it needs to be either or.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what training is about. I feel beginning of the year when the curriculum is set, right? And that time we do a expectation mapping for the teachers, because until now, when you told a teacher there is assessment, she says, take a test, give the result, send the result.
Right.
Now we are saying, take a test, look at the result,
Yeah.
suggest an intervention, and now identify gaps. So when you are the leader of driving curriculum, you don't say what is the result. You start using a nomenclature saying what are the gaps? Where are the
Right.
gaps? So
Right.
therefore, I think collectively we have to think that what internal conversations have to start happening.
Or actually the change in the way the conversation is happening, the questions we are asking.
Exact same thing.
Right.
The questions we are asking need to change. And
Right.
then perhaps teachers will come up with better questions for us.
Right.
The way we said, let's put the cart before the horse, right?
Yeah.
If you put that in front, then the horse will think that I have to go in front, right? And somewhere, if you put even a small visualization in front of the teachers, they will multiply it. It is like
Yeah.
opening that door. We have shut the door that you have sent the result to parents, good enough.
Right.
Open the door and then the analysis and intervention. Then how do you interpret? Each school might interpret the data differently. Because what outcome you want, basis that we might interpret on a points of that why are we judging the child if he's proficient in maths? Do I have to make him proficient in language? You might ask the question. While we have this whole thing, he should be equally good in all subjects. Why?
Right.
You as a school might not think that important. Kishore might think that for me, languages have to have highest percentage and others can, those are your decisions as leaders, how you
Yeah.
want to drive the curriculum. But these tools, unless put towards the vision of outcome, they're just tools. They will do only peripheral work.
Right.
When we are talking 2 years after COVID, now we are not talking adoption of technology. We are saying how we leverage it for better outcome.
Sustain it, leverage it, and see a continuum.
We speak. Interestingly, Devi, today we meet for some conference. No, nobody is going to talk about flipped class. The conversation content will change now.
Yeah.
Also, I have a question. I was talking to certain heads, and then they said a very interesting thing to me, that they have not gone 100% offline. Like they have made their timetables in such a way that one day in a week, they are going absolutely online. And they said this is for the preparedness of, if at all anything happens, also to optimize on the resources, to be able to do that. What are your thoughts on that? It was an interesting idea. So I just wanted to, as a trend, will it develop as a trend?
So I think we would love to hear, thoughts from both of you. So we'll start with Kishore, sir. A mix of offline and online as a continued trend.
In a
course.
timetable, in a timetable.
In a timetable.
Yeah, I see that happening. So if you see today, we've got a few schools that have come up in Navi Mumbai, which are e-schools, right? And they also have a setup where children come together once in a week only.
Yeah.
And this is mostly for grade 11, 12, and for the higher grades, basically. And that somewhere I felt this is transforming the way we are looking at education. So children do things at home, they do it together, they learn, and then they come together and have some discussions over it. It is something similar to a flipped class, but in a very different way now.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is something that will stay, that will emerge to be a great idea that will work very well in future, I think. Because given the constraint of number of rooms we have, number of the population, number of
Yeah.
schools that we have,
And from the economics also, Kishore,
yes,
you might have physicality of classroom, you might add few more sections
correct.
to be able to expand your school and have, price it differently.
True.
You know, that, like, for example, I felt the most empowering thing was the IIT JEE prep. It was empowering because the costs are skyrocketing.
Yes.
Parents with very bright children cannot afford it. But technology has actually provided us the best of faculty to be able to be accessed online. And then
Yeah.
you pay half the price. So, but the trend has to pick up because the adults in the households.
Yeah.
need
Again, it's a mindset change, you know. It's seen as every parent views a JEE or a NEET or a CAT or a CA preparation as something that a child has to do physically, sitting in a classroom locked up for 10 hours with a faculty in front of them. And that mindset has also changed in the last 2 years, because the anytime, anywhere access that has been provided with the best faculty to the students, the entire shift in thought process that an online class is not good enough, or a teacher is not putting in that amount of effort, that has completely gone. And I think a lot of parents themselves today are also opting for this solution. So coming back to this question of yours, Poonam ma'am, and I would like to hear from Devi sir in what are his thoughts. Do you see this trend actually here to stay?
It's a very natural course of things. See, today almost every workplace has nobody has gone back to almost nobody in the IT space has gone back to 100% work from office.
Right.
Most of the big IT firms, whether it be TCS, Infosys, Salesforce, Microsoft, Google, have now a hybrid model where you have a space. You come in if you need to. You work from home if you want to, and it's beneficial for the employee because it allows them much better balance. It is better for the organization because it reduces the requirement for physical space and all that extra costs that they were anyway incurring. It is better for the environment. The employees don't have to travel all the time, especially like places like Bangalore and Mumbai, जहाँ पे आपको 2-2 घंटे travel करने पड़ते हैं. Now the same thing, it's a very natural corollary for that to happen in schools, because see, if the moment that way of teaching starts flipping, right, and it's no longer what the teacher is saying in the class and the notes that are being given, which are of prominence, but you have your notes on your system. Your notes are already there in your LMS system. You have your homework, which is already there in your LMS system. You're expected to do some preparation, come to the class and discuss something. The moment that starts flipping, and the way of learning becomes much more individualized through the use of technology, the purpose of coming to class, see, there is definitely a requirement for classrooms. It cannot be done away with, because there is a very high requirement of social interaction and contact between the children, that if you completely take them away from the classroom, they will completely become very, very very divorced from the society and other things, and that will have other implications. We don't want that. We want children to still be children, meet, come, play, run around. Those things cannot be done online. But at the same time, why does it require to be done every day? Today, a child is not well. He can very well do his homework from or whatever learning from home. Today, he wants to come. You can come. The teacher tomorrow wants all the children there for some group work. Okay, they're all there in the classroom. So as I again said, right, we have to, the requirement of whether online and offline has to be driven by the learning outcome on that particular day rather than कि नहीं आना है तो आना है.
Right. So in
that
fact,
shift has to happen. My question was that another thing was in COVID, they said that social skills were lost. I feel when you have a flip model, the children in the classroom are actually interacting with the teacher, and she's paying personal attention because it's a tutorial. They have come with self-knowledge. She knows what are the places of intervention. That communication, Kishore, end of the day, all of us as students remember the teacher who spoke to us, teacher who asked what we thought. And perhaps by leveraging technology, will allow the time to the teacher to actually talk to the students.
Yeah.
In
fact,
psychological, physical, that requirement is fulfilled in the classroom then.
Right. So since we're on the topic of the role of teachers, Kishore sir, I do want to ask you this. How do you really envision the role of teachers and educators? It has changed, but what are the changes that you foresee them taking or having with integrating education technology? And what are the kind of skills do you think they need to develop to effectively use the tools in their teaching?
So one thing, like everyone has been speaking, that teachers are today not afraid of technology, right? So what I see is slowly we will move away from people who are creating lesson plans for teachers, because the teacher knows her students best, and I just have to type a few keywords on ChatGPT and I'll get an excellent lesson, right? I have tried it and it really works very well. So more the keywords, the better the lesson plans.
Right.
So if we slowly, when teachers start using this because they know their class and they are specific with their terms, they'll get excellent lessons. And them being able to implement it, the very thought of them going there and looking for something for their children shows how much keen they are to make sure that the children learn, right? So they will definitely implement it in a better way and ensure that the learning is maximum. So here what happens is teachers will stop depending on things that should come from out, and they will start doing things by themselves. So I think this is what will happen slowly. They will want their children to learn, and they know their children better than anyone else.
Right. So since you spoke of ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, at its best that we're seeing right now. So Devi sir, with this kind of increase of use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and obviously, like Kishore sir said, he himself tried putting in some keywords to see a lesson plan come in. With machine learning and AI getting integrated into education technology, what according to you are the ethical considerations that one should be aware of?
Obviously, the obvious risks are there. The deep fake and other things. Now, see, with AI coming in, it's so easy to manipulate any news, any photograph, any video. That at today's day and age, to know the real from the unreal is going to be more and more difficult. So as we grow, as we get into this, see, it's the same as what social media has brought about, right? Today, if you are into social media, you are shown a picture, the algorithm shows you, right? Unless you are trained or at least there has been especially with children who are impressionable, unless we really train them to look at data from 3, 4, 5 different sources and corroborate evidence, right? And create your own judgment and not purely depend on what your Insta or what your Facebook is showing you, you'll fall into a trap where you have a very, very one-sided shaded picture of the world. That's going to be even more of a problem as we get into AI and deep fakes. So I think for many of the schools now will have to contend with this. I think it is very, very important that we start teaching students very early how to responsibly use social media. How do you differentiate the right from the wrong? How do you not mistake at the face value? Because the moment that starts happening, you will see a very fragmented world, and it will create a lot of problems. So that's something that will become very critical. I think it's already critical. It's not just the AI. If you see today what social media is, you are shown a very different picture if unless you are consciously looking out and looking at different, asking for different perspectives, then you will be shown a very, very skewed world. So it's a very critical aspect of our teaching today, and which has to be probably be built into every lesson plan. See, for example, I'm teaching social studies, right? I'm teaching social studies. Let's say that I'm teaching a chapter on, let's say, migrations, right? Or human or nomads, right? There has to be a specific focus by the teacher to look at that chapter from every perspective, seeing it from the perspective of nomads. Is it good? Is it bad? Why do you think it is good? Why do you think it is bad? And have that debate, and then debate not based on just perspectives, but data. How do you find out the data? How do you research that data? Unless we incorporate this in the regular way that we are teaching students, we are going to have a big problem. So that's very, very critical, that, and especially, when we are, especially grade 8, 9, 10, when the children are really very impressionable, that time this becomes a very critical part of teaching.
So, Poonam ma'am, I would like to ask you this now. Obviously, Extramarks as an organization is enabling technology in everyday classrooms. And how do you see schools being empowered, and the kind of sensitivities that an edtech organization needs to keep in mind while working with schools to enable or to help them achieve these social sensitivities and instill those beliefs and morals in children?
I personally believe deeply in conversations.
Right.
And it is conversations that start a debate, and debate sharpens a perspective. And when children are young, if we do not allow the responsible adult in the classroom enough time to have those conversations, because this thing cannot be taught in a moral class, a science class. It has to be embedded, the way Devi said, in everyday teaching. Right. So our responsibility begins from every stakeholder. So let's look at it as a edtech innovator. What part would I like to embed in the system that seamlessly gets into a conversation? So Extramarks very, very early on had introduced case studies for every chapter, right? The idea of case study wasn't anything but to open a conversation. The way we run our classrooms, teacher comes and tells, takes a test, moves out. One or few teachers who are inspired teachers get into conversations. So we thought that why can we not make it part of the chapter that without realizing she's almost getting into a conversation. It becomes a habit. So edtech is not to be introduced for the glamour of it. Right. Sometimes there is habits that they have to form, and it should come seamlessly into that module that they may be using, and that becomes a tool in the hand that she gives, but she fulfills a bigger purpose, which a school leader might want to achieve, or the worry we might as a society want to handle. So I thought that was one thing. Another very interesting thing, and this I'm giving as a small example, and over time we can embed these ideas and leverage technology.
Yeah.
Secondly, when we were doing the animations of chapters and all, what we embedded in it, that a concept was told to a child by the grandparent. Usually the technology per se is the glamorous, beautiful,
Right.
you bring the prettiest picture there, but we wanted to embed somewhere the respect or things that you converse, or when mother is shown, she's not necessarily in the kitchen, because these are the change we want.
Yes.
But we take the imagery away, then we would bring the imagery of what we want as a change. Their families are becoming nuclear families. So one of the developers said, why can't we bring grandparents and bring that respect, so that when the child goes back home, some message is there, he'll respectfully talk to Dadu. Otherwise, aapko to pata nahi hai. They tell us, parents, you don't know. But by seeing this imagery, which is from their world, they start having these conversations, because today's child who has access to everything needs adults in his life for wisdom. And increasingly we're going into a small rooms, but we need to have common spaces. So either you tell, actually do an activity as a part of the curriculum, or as a part of what imageries we bring to them. So I think that is one contribution we can give. And the tools that we have given is something the school leadership can use to make that habit of collaboration, meeting, discussion to come as a part of the curriculum.
So, it's almost been about 50 minutes that we have been into this conversation. And while I would love for this conversation to continue, because it is so enriching, and I think we're just touching the tip of the iceberg with the discussions.
I would hear one last question from Devi. I really want to hear this.
Sure.
There's something called a wish, and other is to do. And that makes all the difference. So what is one thing you wished in the last 2 years and you've actually done it in your school?
See, while we have many of these conversations of what we want to do, what we have to understand is that many of these things are pathways and journeys. You have a vision at the end of that that pathway, and you need to climb that many steps to reach there. Like, for example, today if we want to reach a place where the vision is that that technology is very seamlessly integrated into the classrooms, children have their individualized learning journeys mapped out. You want where the learning outcome is placed before the pedagogy, and pedagogy is selected based on what the learning outcome is. So when you look at it, there are so many steps. Step number one, you need to have teachers who are appropriately trained and have the similar vision. You need to ensure that all your teachers have enough platform devices, laptops, computers to be able to do that. You need to have ensured that you have done enough communication with your parents to ensure so that they are accepting of this. You need to have done trainings for your teachers and given them enough very straightforward and simple things, like enough of bandwidth on internet. Right? See, these are, while we're talking about much more advanced things, but all of it fall apart if your laptop is a 30 ka laptop and internet mein speed hi nahi hai, right? You can talk all night long till cows come home, lekin agar aapka basic nahi hai,
Yeah.
चीजें implementation पे नहीं आएंगी. So you have to first make sure that the ecosystem is supportive of this, and the teachers that have come in and have been selected and trained are at least capable of delivering, are of the same mindset. Then you start, when they see that's you're tilling the field, you are making the soil ready. Then you start sowing the seed, and the seed will, if you throw those seed on a barren field, it will not take roots.
Yeah.
So I think that all of us, especially in school education in India, are in that process of tilling the fields, making the soil ready, putting the manure in, and putting those seeds. And we are all hoping that and edutech partners like Extramarks and others are those partners who are making that soil fertile for us and making it easier to make the soil fertile. And now the seeds are put and the roots are taking in, and slowly the things. So in the last, I think one and a half years, many of the things that have been done are fairly on those areas, making sure that infrastructure is ready.
The ground is ready to receive.
Ground is ready. That the teachers have high quality laptops, teachers have good internet speeds.
Yeah.
That basic understanding of the teachers on edutech and other things are solid, that they have the time and ability, right? You pack them up with 37 periods of workload, and then you tell that
when do they upskill?
Right? And then you upskill. So, making sure that you have given them time and space to think about. So these are fundamental, and these are the basics that allow any of these ideas to take roots. So that, I think, we have been working towards hard.
So I'm also going to just let everyone who is attending this webinar here know that we've opened up our Q&A. So please feel free to drop in your questions, and we'll pick them up as we move towards closing remarks. Kishore sir, I want to know from you as well. We've heard Devi sir tell us in terms of what are the actual things, the smaller nitty-gritties that one must look out for, the actual implementation of these emerging trends to come in play in everyday classrooms. From you, final remarks on what are those small things that you would be looking at integrating or bringing in as a must-have in your schools.
So there are some things that we've started working on.
Okay.
Of course, like what Mr. Devi said, we are not there yet, but then we are on our way. We want to be there. So believe me, wishing also takes as much energy as doing, right? Because your wish, when you're trying to wish, you're actually thinking of, will it happen? What, you're actually putting in a lot of thought to it. So wishing also takes a lot of energy. And once that wish is ready, you know where you want to reach, right? And thankfully we have crossed that stage now, and we are almost moving. We are doing so. I can say there are some things that we are working on. One is the immersive environment that I was talking about. That is something that we have worked on. We have reached to a certain place. We want to move further. The other thing is use of technology to help children learn in a better way. By children learn in a better way, I was talking about self-assessment. I was talking about how we are able to assess and have an AI-based learning process for them. Right now, we are all doing it on Excel sheets. There is a lot of work that the teacher is doing in understanding the data. If we are able to create systems where data comes very easily, and teacher uses that to plan and work on the child, that is something be great. So this is one more wish that we want to take forward.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that we will soon be able to make that wish come true. We have a couple of questions on our Q&A, so I'm going to be taking those up for all of you. The first question I would want to ask, I think Poonam ma'am, you could help us, answer this. What kind of skills do we as educators need to acquire for emerging edutech world, and how? And the reason I'm asking you this question is because at Extramarks, we're also running a very robust teacher training program and upskilling program. And thus, as an educator, what are the skills that you foresee, for them to acquire, and how?
First, a skill to unlearn and learn and re-engineer oneself willingly.
Right.
And that does not need an external body to come and teach you. You have to walk into the class that the same thing I'm going to look at differently. Second thing is, throw your doubts to your students in the class.
Mhm.
You might find all your answers within the class and that conversation, because they are 40 pairs of eyes that are your prism to look at the world. Look at the world from their eyes and lend your wisdom to what they see. These two things may be formally taught, which school leaders can decide, but I think it is more a self-engineering than anything else. Third thing that they have to upskill themselves is by doing. Pick a chapter, look at it in different directions. You are your own best teacher because you know this concept the best. As an adult, you have a perspective of the real world. And if you take away the theory of it and bring relevance of the real world into your learning, that itself, that's what I'm saying, the biggest learning upskilling teachers had to do was take away the fear of technology. Now that fear of technology has gone, now they have to re-engineer themselves of looking at the same thing differently, because it scared me post-COVID when we were coming back, that teachers were coming back to the same chronological teaching in the classroom.
Right.
Which the child today on a video, what she was teaching in 3 days can get in an hour. And if she does not re-engineer herself, the children may not be interested in her anymore. And last thing, all upskilling requirements she knows and is available online. And she should start training herself again. We do not have this culture of training ourselves. We finish a formal education, get on into the work.
Yeah.
Whatever the workplace trains us, we take that in. But we know what we need, and we should be able to train ourselves. So I'm coming back 3 ways. Re-engineer yourself, be fearless, listen to your children, and be fearless about upskilling yourself, because you know what you need to be effective in a classroom. And rest is for the school leaders to drive the whole training within the school. But this is what I feel very strongly, very, very strongly. I do not believe that external old-fashioned training should happen.
Right. So we have, in fact, a question on the Q&A, which is in line to what you're saying, ma'am. This is, I'm asking the question on behalf of Mary Sebastian. And Kishore said it would be great if you could help answer it. Is it better to focus on how we learned in the past, or how we are teaching with the use of technology to better prepare students for the future? I think it's a very simple answer, but...
Yeah. So it's a very good question, no? But,
yeah.
We are all talking about integrating technology to the side, and in past we've seen that things were great. So it all depends on, this some time back Devi also spoke about this. It depends on the objective that you want out of the lesson, right? So if my objective of a storytelling class is imagination and creativity, I cannot show images. Right? So I am supposed to create that thing. I'm only supposed to talk. Maybe I do some
Right.
voice modulation. My objective
Filter.
decides what I do in class. If my objective was just a comprehension, just understand something, then maybe I'll show a video or I'll show something. So it depends on the objective of the lesson, and the past method or the new age technological method. They are not. Nothing is outdated and nothing is new. I think people were using it in different ways, and it is just that the kind of tools we use have changed today. That's all. So yeah, it
Okay.
is.
Great. We also have another question, and I'm asking on behalf of Shesha. Technology is the way for successful tomorrow, but still we see a lot of schools refraining to implement ICT. Why and how do we initiate implementing it? Devi sir, if you could share your thoughts on this.
See, it's a inevitable fact of life. There is, see, for a very long time, schools were wary of putting projectors in the classroom. Um, so as time and time passes, you'll understand that these are all tools. Still, at the end of the day, it's that objective, as Mr. Kishore was saying, which is driving what tool that you will use. It is tomorrow there will be AI, day after tomorrow there will be something else, right? There is no point in the schools being divorced from what is there outside. See, today, for example, social media is there, right? You can either say that कि नहीं social media हमको तो छूना नहीं है, हम तो अलग हैं. But your student is going out just after the 5 hours in the school and is on social media.
Right.
So you saying that I will not want to use, I don't want to touch it, I don't want to talk about it, is not going to change the world outside. It is
Right.
not going to change what your children are getting exposed to.
Yeah.
So I think that is the reality, and I think it's just a reality of matter, and the way that things work is that either you adopt to the world that is changing or you get left behind, right? So it's better that we keep adopting the technology, not be afraid of it, take it in our stride, and then adopt in our way of teaching. That's much better, I think, and much more responsible to the children that we are teaching than to not.
Wonderful. So thank you, Devi sir and Kishore sir and Poonam ma'am. We have a lot of more questions on the chat, and we will get back to each one of you with responses on those, on the chat itself. But I think it is this 1 hour that we spent has just opened up, a lot of insights for me in terms of, and I think I'm sure for all of us, it has given us a lot of takeaways for us to start thinking about the future that lies ahead of us, and how, as a teacher, as an educator, as an edtech innovator, one needs to work for the betterment of the everyday life of a teacher in school and the betterment of the students. So once again, I thank you all for joining us today. We're grateful to our panelists for sharing with us, their thoughts, and to all our participants for being so responsive on the Q&As. We're hoping that we'll all see you again soon. Please stay tuned to our website, www.extramarks.com/EM-Elevate. You'll be getting the recording of this webinar on the website, and also all the details of the upcoming webinars that we do for Extramarks Elevate. Till then, wish you all a very happy Eid. This is Vipasha Rathore signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.